The relentless sun blazed over the New Mexico desert, casting long, eerie shadows across the arid expanse. The heat was unyielding, a constant, oppressive force. It was September 20th, 1988, a day that began like any other in the quiet town of Belen. 19-year-old Tara Calico, a vibrant spirit with an infectious laugh, embarked on her usual bike ride. Her energy was as radiant as the New Mexico sun. She cherished these solo rides. They were her sanctuary, her moments of solitude with her thoughts and the open road. These rides allowed her to think, to lose herself in music, to simply be. The rhythmic pedaling was almost meditative, a way to clear her mind. She assured her mother, Patty, that she'd return in time for their afternoon tennis match. It was a promise she never broke. Little did they know this seemingly ordinary day would shatter their lives forever. The sun would set on a day etched in their memories for all the wrong reasons. Tara pedaled her pink Huffy mountain bike down the familiar stretch of State Road 47. She knew every twist and turn by heart. The wind whipped through her hair as she slipped a cassette into her Sony Walkman. The music was her companion, the soundtrack to her journey. Unbeknownst to her, danger lurked nearby. The vast desert, usually a place of solace, now concealed unseen threats. Witnesses would later report seeing a light-colored pickup truck trailing her, its occupants watching her with unsettling intensity. The truck's presence cast a dark shadow on an otherwise bright day, but their accounts were just fragments of a horrifying puzzle. Each piece added to the growing sense of dread. As the clock ticked past noon, Patty's worry grew. Tara was never late, especially not for their cherished tennis matches. Tara was always punctual, especially for their tennis dates. The empty tennis court stood as a silent testament to her absence. She tried calling her daughter, but it went straight to voicemail. Each unanswered ring amplified her anxiety. A knot of dread tightened in her stomach. A mother's intuition screamed that something was terribly wrong. Something was wrong, very wrong. The fear in her eyes mirrored the growing panic in her heart. She alerted the authorities, her voice trembling with a mother's worst fear. Each word she spoke was laced with desperation. The search for Tara Calico had begun. The community rallied, their collective hope driving the search efforts through the unforgiving desert terrain. The desolate landscape transformed into a labyrinth of secrets as the search for Tara began. The vast, empty expanse of the New Mexico desert seemed to stretch on forever, a harsh and unforgiving terrain that held its mysteries tightly. The sun beat down mercilessly, casting long shadows that played tricks on the eyes, making every rock and shrub a potential clue or a cruel mirage. Search parties scoured the area, their hope dwindling with each passing hour. Volunteers from the local community joined forces with law enforcement, their determination unwavering despite the odds. They walked in tight formations, eyes scanning the ground for any sign, any hint that might lead them to Tara. Law enforcement officers, volunteers, even helicopters combed the vast expanse of desert, their eyes peeled for any trace of the missing teenager. The helicopters flew low, their rotors kicking up dust as they hovered over areas of interest, while search dogs sniffed the ground, their keen senses attuned to any unusual scent. Days bled into weeks and the initial frantic energy gave way to a grim reality. Tara was gone. The searchers' faces, once filled with hope and determination, now showed signs of weariness and despair. The desert, with its vastness and silence, seemed to mock their efforts, swallowing up any trace of the young girl. Despite the extensive search, the only clues to Tara's disappearance were a few scattered items found along her usual bike route. These items, seemingly insignificant on their own, painted a haunting picture when pieced together. Each discovery brought a mix of hope and dread. Pieces of her Walkman cassette tape lay broken on the asphalt, as if someone had angrily ripped it apart. The sight of the shattered tape was a stark reminder of the violence that might have befallen her. It was a small yet significant clue, suggesting a struggle. Fragments of what appeared to be the plastic casing of her Walkman were also recovered, adding to the chilling tableau. These broken pieces, scattered like breadcrumbs, hinted at a story of sudden interruption of a journey cut short. But Tara's pink Huffy bike, her constant companion, was nowhere to be found. The absence of the bike was a glaring omission, a piece of the puzzle that refused to fit. It was as if the bike had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only questions and heartache. The lack of concrete evidence only fueled the growing mystery. Each day without new information deepened the enigma, turning Tara's disappearance into a haunting riddle that the desert seemed determined to keep. The searchers, though puzzled, refused to give up, driven by the hope that somewhere, somehow, a clue would emerge. Rumors and speculation ran rampant through the small town of Belen. Had Tara run away? Theories abounded, each more outlandish than the last. Some whispered about secret plans and hidden motives, while others spoke of sightings and strange encounters. The town, once quiet and close-knit, was now a hotbed of gossip and suspicion. Had she been the victim of a hit-and-run accident that someone was desperately trying to cover up? The idea of a tragic accident, followed by a hasty cover-up, seemed plausible to many. The roads, though usually safe, could be treacherous, and the thought of a panicked driver hiding their mistake was all too believable. Or had something more sinister, more unthinkable occurred on that lonely stretch of road? The possibility of foul play, of a darker force at work, cast a long shadow over the investigation. The desert, with its eerie silence and vast emptiness, seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the truth to be uncovered. Months turned into a year, and the trail for Tara Calico seemed to have gone ice cold. The small town of Belen, New Mexico, where Tara had vanished, was left in a state of perpetual unease. The local authorities had exhausted every lead, and the case files grew thicker with each passing day, yet no new clues emerged. Just when all hope seemed lost, a faint flicker emerged from a most unexpected place. In June 1989, over 1,500 miles away in Port St. Joe, Florida, a woman made a startling discovery in the parking lot of a convenience store. Lying on the asphalt was a Polaroid photograph, faded and worn, but its contents sent chills down her spine. The Polaroid showed a young woman and a young boy both bound and gagged, their eyes wide with terror. The woman bore a striking resemblance to Tara Calico, and the boy looked eerily like Michael Henley, a young boy who had disappeared from New Mexico a year before Tara. The photo was grainy, making it difficult to be absolutely certain, but the resemblance was uncanny. The discovery of the Polaroid breathed new life into the investigation. Could this be the break they had been waiting for? Was Tara still alive, held captive somewhere? The photo offered a glimmer of hope, but it also deepened the mystery. The woman who found the photograph immediately contacted the local authorities, who in turn reached out to the FBI. The image was quickly circulated among law enforcement agencies, and soon it made its way back to New Mexico. The families of Tara Calico and Michael Henley were contacted, and they were shown the photograph. Both families were struck by the similarities, and were cautiously optimistic that this could be a lead. Experts were brought in to analyze the photograph. They scrutinized every detail, from the background to the expressions on the faces of the young woman and boy. The FBI's forensic team worked tirelessly, using the latest technology available at the time to enhance the image and extract as much information as possible. Despite their efforts, the origin of the photograph remained elusive. The photograph raised more questions than it answered. How did it end up in Florida? Who were the people in the photograph? Were they really Tara and Michael? Or was it a cruel coincidence? The investigation took on a new urgency, with detectives re-examining old evidence and following up on new leads. The media picked up the story, and soon the photograph was broadcast on national news, sparking a wave of public interest and speculation. The renewed attention brought in a flood of tips and sightings, but none of them led to a concrete breakthrough. The families of Tara and Michael held on to hope, but the uncertainty was agonizing. The photograph was a tantalizing clue, but without more evidence it was impossible to draw definitive conclusions. The search for answers continued, driven by the hope that one day, the mystery would be solved, and Tara and Michael would be found. The discovery of the Polaroid breathed new life into the investigation. Could this be the break they had been waiting for? Was Tara still alive, held captive somewhere? The photo offered a glimmer of hope, but it also deepened the mystery. Could this be the break they had been waiting for? Was Tara still alive, held captive somewhere? The photo offered a glimmer of hope, but it also deepened the mystery. Who took the picture? Why was it left in a random convenience store parking lot so far from New Mexico? Was Tara still alive, held captive somewhere? The photo offered a glimmer of hope, but it also deepened the mystery. Who took the picture? Why was it left in a random convenience store parking lot so far from New Mexico? The photo offered a glimmer of hope, but it also deepened the mystery. Who took the picture? Why was it left in a random convenience store parking lot so far from New Mexico? Why was it left in a random convenience store parking lot so far from New Mexico? And most importantly, where were Tara and Michael? The Polaroid photo ignited a firestorm of speculation and wild theories. Some dismissed it as a cruel hoax, while others clung to it as undeniable proof that Tara was still alive. Law enforcement officials launched an investigation into its authenticity, but the results were frustratingly inconclusive. The photo remained a haunting enigma, a piece of the puzzle that stubbornly refused to fit. Among the swirling theories surrounding Tara's disappearance, one stood out for its chilling plausibility. Some investigators believe that Tara may have been the victim of a hit-and-run accident, perhaps involving local teenagers who panicked and decided to cover up their crime. This theory gained traction with rumors of a local sheriff who claimed to know the identities of those involved, but frustratingly lacked sufficient evidence to make an arrest. Another compelling theory pointed to the possibility of abduction, perhaps by someone who had been watching Tara, someone who knew her routine intimately. The Polaroid, if it indeed depicted Tara, seemed to lend weight to this theory. The image suggested a level of planning and premeditation that sent shivers down the spines of those following the case. Despite the surge of interest and the flood of leads sparked by the mysterious Polaroid photo, the investigation into Tara Calico's disappearance remained agonizingly stagnant. Years melted into decades, and the case was passed from one detective to another, each one driven by the hope of finally bringing closure to Tara's grieving family and the community that mourned her. In 2013, a new task force was assembled, determined to re-examine the evidence with fresh eyes and chase down any new leads that might have surfaced. The FBI also ramped up its involvement in the case, offering a substantial $20,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for Tara's disappearance. Yet despite these relentless efforts, the case remained unsolved. The lack of answers gnawed at the hearts of Tara's loved ones, a constant reminder of the cruel injustice that had befallen their beloved daughter, sister, and friend. The community of Belen, forever scarred by Tara's disappearance, refused to let her memory fade, clinging to the hope that one day, the truth would finally come to light.